Battlefield games don't typically share any sort of cohesive plot. Some characters appear in a follow-up title, but ultimately, there doesn't appear to be any sort of storyline going on here. EA isn't setting out to make some sort of Battlefield cinematic universe. However, that won't stop fans like me speculating and making connections that are definitely in the realm of fiction, but fun regardless. And that's what I'm going to do today. We could start right at the beginning of the franchise, but maybe that's a video for another time. Instead, I want to begin with the War of 2020. This is a fictional battle depicted through the events of Battlefield 4's single player and multiplayer. The fighting is brutal and involves the United States, the People's Republic of China, and the Russian Federation. Tensions began to rise as the prominent Admiral Chiang Wei attempted to prevent the Western influence on China by orchestrating a coup to assassinate Qin Jie, who wanted to introduce a more progressive and idealistic way of life. The assassination would be pinned on the Americans to rally China behind Admiral Chiang, but he knew this wouldn't be enough. Tensions needed to be pressured even more. And to do this, Admiral Chiang had Edward Cutler, a CIA agent, order US troops to the China-North Korea border. The mission, as far as the CIA and US troops were aware, was that they were to retrieve a supposed defector from North Korea. This defector's codename was Highbeam. However, during this extraction, the US troops had no time to react to the Chinese betrayal. As it turned out, Highbeam was strapped with explosives. The ambush turned into a massacre, and civilian bodies were laid out at the scene by the Chinese military and even photographed again to further rally the people behind Admiral Chiang and add fuel to the hatred of the US. As the Battlefield 4 campaign begins, tensions further increase as military action is eventually taken in Shanghai. On the South China Sea, the USS Titan is one of the first US vessels to be attacked. Fighting between the US and China continues into multiplayer, and the battles are waged across the globe. Naval operations in the South China Sea continue on maps like Paracel Storm. A mainland invasion then follows as the US infiltrates the Chinese defenses. Ultimately, the US lays siege to Shanghai, and the battles do considerable damage to both sides. Though that isn't the only fight. As US forces assault the Chinese mainland, they discover more and more Russian facilities with bizarre research. This intel leads a small expedition to Siberia, where the final battles of the war are fought. US forces engage with heavy Russian defenses who are developing top secret advanced military technology. As fighting rages on, hints towards a new military coalition are observed, some sort of union between Russia and Asia. What's implied in Battlefield 4 is developed further in Battlefield 2142 as we enter the Cold War of the 22nd century. This fictional war is a gruesome futuristic battle between the European Union and the Pan-Asian Coalition, the group alluded to in Battlefield 4. Starting in October 2139 and coming to a close sometime around 2147, the Cold War of the 22nd century was a brutal one. The main cause of the outbreak was a new ice age at the beginning of the century. This ice age caused natural resources to become increasingly more rare. While the European Union had enough resources to sustain itself, the Pan-Asian Coalition found no other option but to take what the EU had by force. The Ice Age caused incredible global warming, which led to snowstorms that covered entire continents in ice. As tensions rose and resources became more and more scarce, fighting between the last remaining superpowers eventually broke out in Minsk, Belarus. Fighting continued between the European Union and the Pan-Asian Coalition across numerous countries and locations. As part of PAX Operation Thunder, the EU headquarters in Berlin was taken in July 2140. The EU retreated to France, where fighting peaked in Verdun, but eventually, by 2142, Europe had fallen. The next few years saw both superpowers clash in Africa: Gibraltar, the Suez Canal, Karkand, the seedy power plant, all locations of heavy fighting and stalemates, with both factions suffering heavy losses. After years of combat, the EU began to gain the upper hand in the African campaign and turned their eyes towards their once powerful European mainland. The liberation of Europe was underway, and with this momentum, in the late summer of 2145, EU forces had reclaimed most of Western Europe and the heartlands of Old East Germany. The EU then brought the fight to the pack by attacking the Middle East in locations such as Highway Tampa and, of course, Wake Island. So far, there are a couple of key links between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 2142, which could tie in with the lore and world building being done for Battlefield 2042. But this is when things get a little bit strange. There's a theory out there that suggests not only are all three of these Battlefield games linked by storyline, but that they are all also linked with the world of Apex Legends and Titanfall. Let's try and break this down. Titanfall follows the story of a series of wars fought on the frontier between the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation and the Frontier Militia. According to source material provided by Apex Legends, these battles for the frontier apparently went on for hundreds of years. The Titan Wars took place about a decade before the first game, and the Frontier War is depicted through the events of the games themselves. According to the Bangalore legend, the final battle of these wars took place in 2715, which saw no survivors. Apex Legends takes place about 18 years after the events of Titanfall 2, again in the Frontier. The Frontier War is over at this point, with the IMC being the presumed loser. Without law and order, this region of the frontier known as the Outlands gives way to a new blood sport known as the Apex Games. But what's the link? Right now, Battlefield 4 is about 120 years before Battlefield 2142 and over 700 years before Apex Legends. Well, some speculate the link between these two very different games comes with this character and their work. Hammond Robotics, which was started by Dr. Heinrich Hammond, the brilliant mind behind Titanfall's most incredible inventions. Bizarrely, according to the official source material, this doctor is aged between 600 and 700 years. It is noted that 2 centuries before the events of Titanfall, Hammond created a company named Hammond Engineering in the core systems. This is a region of space around the Earth. This company later became the IMC, which I mentioned earlier. Hammond claims to have been at the forefront of robot design since the 20th century. Here's the link. In this strange world, the war of 2020 showed the superpowers that more refined, integrated, and deadly technology was needed to maintain control. Research was started in Siberia by the Russian Federation. They began developing railguns, massive Titan ships, and robotic walkers for their soldiers to pilot. Fast forward to Battlefield 2142, this technology has reached its maturity and is being deployed across the world, being used by the European Union and the Pan-Asian Coalition on the battlefields of the future. All this time, this Hammond character is further developing this technology with his company Hammond Engineering. For several hundred years, he evolves the tech into what is present in Titanfall, where it is used to bring the destruction to the frontier region, leaving nothing but outlaws and the Apex Games. That's the theory. Whether or not you choose to believe it is up to you. There are always going to be more links that I've missed, and definitely plenty of plot holes too, such as, where does Battlefield 2042 fit into all of this? Will it introduce Hammond in some shape or form? Will we see more early prototypes of the Titan ships or walkers hinted at in Battlefield 4? Maybe even a mention of space travel and the frontier region? Only time will tell. But anyway, thank you for watching. For more Battlefield 2042 content, tickle that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Until the next one though, I'll see you lads later.